Before we go into the functionality of the backpack, let's go ahead and attach the backpack to the character. In our third person folder, where we have the input, actions, I'm going to go ahead and create a new input, and this would be an input action, IA underscore, we can name this in IA underscore inventory. And I'm going to go ahead and save it. Now back in my input folder, where I have the IMC default, I'm going to open it and add a new mapping here. Expand this, and under none, I'm going to select the IA inventory. And then I'm going to use the left tab key as our inventory. So when we press tab, we're going to get the inventory open. And we're going to go ahead and save it. Now let's go to our third person folder, blueprints, third person character. And here at the bottom, we're going to create our inventory function. So I'm going to search for IA underscore inventory, and this will give me my input for inventory. I'm going to create a variable, and this would be is backpack open with a question mark. And then the category would be backpack, and then you can add in this line, and then if you search and put in bools, then it's going to create a subcategory just like that. I know that might be a little bit too small to see, so what I did was I added the category as backpack, and then this straight line, and then bool, and then this actually gives you this subcategory just like this. So I'm going to drag this backpack bool, and then I'm going to do a get and do a branch. Let's set it up to our started. Now, if the backpack is open, then we want to go ahead and close it, but we don't really have the reference of the backpack to close it. So let's go ahead and create that. So if the backpack is not open, then we're going to go ahead and create a widget. And this would be our backpack main widget. The owning player would be get player controller. Like that. And this, we're going to go ahead and promote it to a variable, and this would be backpack underscore UI underscore ref. And now this is the reference that we get to close off of our true here. And this backpack, we're going to go ahead and add to viewport. And also, we're going to take this backpack open and set this to true. We're going to indicate to the game that the backpack is open. And now off of backpack is if the backpack is open, we're going to get a reference to this backpack, drag it, and then we're going to just say remove from parent. And also set this boolean of the set backpack open to false. And drag this reference and then set it just like that, like an empty reference, so it clears out the reference. So every time the widget gets created, it's going to create a new reference. Now that we have created our backpack, we need to now communicate to the backpack as to what's the content of the backpack. So in our content drawer, back in our core folder, UI, backpack main, I'm going to go to the graph here and create a new variable. And this would be backpack underscore content. This would be of type S underscore backpack. And it also is going to be an array. And let's make this instance editable and expose and spawn. So this way, anytime a different blueprint creates this backpack main UI, just like how we did create, you'll be able to access this variable directly here. So if I now go and right click and refresh, you'll see that backpack content just showed up here. This is what instance editable and expose on spawn does. So now I'm going to go ahead and drag my backpack component here, drag off of this and say get backpack struct, and connect this entire thing in here, just like that. So now we're effectively, every time the backpack gets created, the content of the backpack is going to be updated to our backpack main. Now we have the information that we need. Let's go ahead and fill our inventory. So first I'm going to go back to my designer, select our items vertical box, and then the wrap box, I'm going to select it, and now we're going to name this as item underscore container and make this an is variable. Compile and save it. And same thing for the weapons. While we're here, we can just do that. Select the wrap box, and then we're going to name this as weapons underscore container. Make this a variable as well. Compile and save. In our graph, now we have the items container and the weapons container. On event pre-construct, we're going to drag our backpack content, and off of this, we're going to go ahead and say for each loop, Connect this to the pre-construct, just like this. We're going to drag this and we're going to break it. Now we have S weapons info and also we have the S items info. I'm going to add in the weapons info first to our list and then followed by the items info. This way all the weapons that we get is on top of the list and all of the items that we get is going to be at the bottom of the list. So first we need to prepare our item slot to be able to receive this information. So go to your content drawer, open up your item slot, and here go to your graph. We're going to create a variable for the name, which would be of type name. And we're also going to create a value for the portrait, which would be of type texture 2D. Next, we're going to create a stack size. This would be integer. Then we have our weight, which would be a float value. And then we have the actual value of the item. It's an integer. Compile and save it. Now we want to make sure that all of these are instance editable and also expose on spawn. So this information can be sent through when we create this widget. I'm also going to add them to a new category, and this would be item slot. And I'm going to name this info. So that's going to create something like that. And I'm going to just drag it and drop this into the info just to keep it nice and clean. There you go. And compile this and then save it. Now we're going to use our event construct here. First, I'm going to drag my item icon. And then I'm going to say set texture from brush, I believe, or set brush from texture. Connect this to our construct. And then drag the portrait on here like this. Next is the stack size text. And this is going to be set text. And make sure you select the set text with the text in the bracket. And this would be the name. And we can just plug it in here and it will do the conversion like this. Next is the value text. I'm going to go ahead and again, this would be set text and make sure it's the text with the bracket. And drag the value integer straight on here. And then that should set that up. It will do the conversion on its own, so you don't have to worry about it. Last one is a weight text. So I'm going to go ahead and do a get. Again, set text. Connect this here. And I'm going to drag this weight onto here, just like this. So now when this item slot gets generated, it's going to generate with all of these information. One thing I want to do is in my core folder, in my weapon system, S weapons info, I want to change our name from string to a name and then save it. So we're going to be, because we're going to be using the name here, it's going to match. Let's go ahead and compile and save everything. Now back in our backpack main, we're ready to go ahead and create our slot. Now I'm going to utilize this slot type for us to generate the slot specifically for items and weapons. I'm going to drag off of this slot type and then I'm going to do a switch. And now I got two separate slot types. In my loop body, if the slot type is a weapon, I'm going to go ahead and drag this S weapon and then break it here. And drag this weapon and I'm going to say create widget. And this would be our item slot that we just created. Let me put this here. And then I'm going to start connecting these slots. So the name will get connected to the name, portrait to portrait. This one stack size, because it's a weapon, it's always going to be 1. The weight, we didn't add a weight for the weapon, so let's go ahead and do that. So in our content drawer, open up your S weapons info, add in a new line, and this would be weight, and then set this to a type float. Save. Now we can go ahead and close it. And in our backpack main, we have our stack size set to 1, our weight, we can connect it here, and our value, we connect it here. Now the value, I have it as an integer. If you want to set it to a float so you can have decimal value for your items, go right ahead. But I'm going to work with the whole numbers. So I set this to an integer and I'm going to go off of that. And here off of our return value, I'm going to drag my items container and then say add child to wrapbox. Connect this execution pin here as such and the return value to this content. Now I'm going to go ahead and select all of this, right click, and I'm going to collapse node. And this would be add weapons to inventory, just like that. And now for the item, we're going to do the exact same thing, right? For item, we're going to drag off of this and we're going to say create widget. And this would be our item slot. Let's go ahead and drag in our S items info and then break it. So we got the information. So we're going to connect the name to name. And oh, we don't have a portrait. Let's go and set that up. In our item system, sItems info, I'm going to add in a portrait. And this would be a texture 2D. Texture 2D object reference. Save. And now back in my backpack main, I have my portrait, so I can connect this portrait here. The stack size would actually come directly from the slot quantity itself. We're stacking in the backpack, not on the item. So the stack size will come from the slot quantity. The weight is something that we don't have in our sItems info, so we can go ahead and add it. And make this a type float. Save, and then let's go ahead and connect that here. And the value will be connected here as such. Compile and save, and we're going to do the same thing. Drag the items container here, and we're going to go add child to wrapbox. Connect this execution pin, connect the return value, just like that. And now I'm going to select all of this, right click, and then collapse node, and this would be add items to inventory. Compile and save. And now we have effectively taken all of our equipment from our backpack and we have added it to our inventory UI. Now, if I were to go in game and if I press tab, you're going to see there's a slot created for each and every single item. It's 5 by 3, so that's 15 slots created. But we haven't really set up our data table, or we haven't fed any information in to our backpack. So everything here is empty. So first thing that we want to do here is want to go and check to make sure that there is item in the backpack. If there's no item in the backpack, then we shouldn't really have any slots here. Before we do the switch, we want to check to see if the item actually has any type of quantity. So I'm going to drag off of the slot quantity and then do a greater than 0 and then do a branch and connect this here. Let's move all of this a little bit out. And now it's very simple here. We can just connect this loop body here as such, and then the true connection, we're going to connect it to the switch on slots. Only when our slot quantity is greater than 0, we're going to go ahead and create these slots. If they're not greater than 0, then we're going to go ahead and then, now if I press tab, nothing should show up on our screen because we don't really have any inventory in our bag. So this is the function for populating our backpack with everything that we have in our inventory.